Getting set to go against the Philadelphia Phillies, a game you will see coming up tonight here on Sportsnet.
Here's a swing and a deep fly ball off the bat of Danny Jansen, and he bangs it off the second deck.
And now Danny Jansen races one down the left field line. How about Danny Jansen? He does it again. That's Jansen's second double of the night. Jansen flies it to deep center. It's gone!
Danny Jansen is now 12 for his last 27 with 5 extra base hits.
Jansen in September, like Earth, Wind, and Fire, changing the minds of pretenders. Look at the numbers there. 14 games, 5 extra base hits, an OPS over 1,000. Joe, what are you seeing?
Jamie, Danny Jansen has spoken in the past about dedicated himself to pulling the baseball. He felt that that's what he does best as a hitter, so why not be the best version of yourself? And I think for Danny, to me, it looks like he's looking for a first fastball right out over the plate, something that he can pull. Now, you'll hear hitters and hitting coaches talk about cheating to get to a pitch, and all that means is getting going early so that the bat head can get out here to pull the baseball. And if you do that against a high-powered fastball, you have to, quote, cheat a little bit. Now, when you do that, it might leave you susceptible to breaking balls away. And it does for Jansen on occasion, for sure. But one thing Danny does when he does that, he's got a wide stance. He starts quite wide, and then when he strides to hit, it's really wide. So he gets quite a wide base, wider than most. But when he does swing, he'll sink into that front side. You'll see that front leg bent. Most hitters will stiffen that front leg so that they can drive against it. Danny kind of sinks into it. That then can leave him susceptible to the fastball up in the zone, and we'll see teams attack him in that location. But one thing he does do is he won't miss those mistakes. So when he's looking for that fastball over the plate, or it might be the breaking ball that hangs in the middle part of the zone, he is putting himself in a good position to get the barrel head out and drive that ball hard to center, or left field and do damage. I think Danny has convinced himself in his career that if he can do damage at the plate, he can be very valuable with the job he does behind the plate. Now, a couple of examples of where he is susceptible. Sure, you can't cover everything as a hitter. It's very difficult. So can pitchers go away, especially with 2 strikes with that little breaking ball? Absolutely. That happens to a lot of good hitters as well. But what he wants to focus on is doing damage on fastballs. And when he gets a fastball right there, inner part of the plate, middle of the zone, height-wise, he is going to do damage. When you watch that front leg, it really bends as he's striding into it. Watch that front leg sink into it a little bit. Now, for that pitch and that height, it works perfectly. But what it does do is it tells other teams that maybe we can elevate against Danny. There's a good hitter's count, 2-1 fastball up in the zone, but he's a little bit late, and it's a tough pitch to get to with his hitting mechanics. But again, he wants to do damage when he gets his pitch like that against the Orioles this past weekend, so that when he gets the fastball in the middle of the zone, when he gets a breaking ball that maybe isn't the best pitcher's pitch and it spins and stays in the zone, hit those mistakes and don't just hit them, but do damage to the pull side, center to left field. Danny's done a good job of that, and I think he's convinced himself with the job he does behind the plate, handling a pitching staff, if he can do some damage the way we've seen lately in the month of September, he can be a very valuable asset to his team this year and moving forward in his career. Jamie?
Excellent, Joe. Something to keep an eye on tonight as Jansen goes up against the Philadelphia Phillies. Kyle Gibson is the opposing pitcher. A couple of guys with numbers against Gibson that aren't so good. For example, George Springer in the leadoff position, 1 for 13. And the number 5 hitter, Matt Chapman, 0 for 12. Nice to see Alejandro Kirk returning to the lineup as the Blue Jays take on the Phillies. Let us hear now from the guys from SM Bets.
Thank you, Jamie. Mike Mahorovich and Drew Martin, our baseball analysts from Wager Talk at the SM Bets Big Board, presented by Bet365. Drew, the Blue Jays and Phillies, they're trending in 2 different directions right now. How do the betting markets view the first of 2 in Philly tonight?
Sure, Mike. The betting markets actually have it as the Jays as the short road favorites here. I think it's influenced heavily by the Phillies' recent performance, losing their last game in Miami and then getting swept by the Atlanta Braves. So losing 4 straight games, only averaging 2.5 runs in those 4 games with an 86 weighted runs created plus number, just meaning 86%, 14% below MLB average in terms of run production. And then when you look at the Phillies starter, Mike, Gibson on the hill. He's given up 12 earned runs this month over just over 12 innings pitched. And then when you project out who the Jays bats are going to be seeing here, this Phillies bullpen, Mike, is one of the worst in baseball. Bottom 10 for the full season, and actually bottom 5 with a 1.52 whip from their bullpen over the last month. So I think it bodes well for the Jays offense tonight, Mike.
How close is Phillies fan base from smashing the panic button? Because this NL wildcard race, it's tightened up.
Oh, it absolutely has. And hey, they're only 2.5 games up on the Milwaukee Brewers here. So in terms of pressing the panic button, it might be happening, especially if this homestand doesn't go very well for the Phillies. If you're not up to date, guys, in the National League wildcard, you see it there. It's really three teams, fighting for 2 spots. So the Phillies trying to keep the Brewers down there, just 2.5 games back. But really, there's a lot pointing towards the Brewers. Their schedule against Cincinnati, Miami, and Arizona, all below 500. It's almost like the Brewers benefit from something Jays fans can kind of relate to in terms of the East Division in the American League being so much stronger than the Central Division. It's kind of the same thing in the National League. So that's hurting the Phillies going forward, Mike.
Both of these races are going to be so much fun. Thank you, Drew, for your analysis. It's a critical series for both of these teams because of those wild card races, and we'll see how it plays out. Jamie, back to you.
Here's Philadelphia's lineup brought to you by Bet365. Lots of home runs in this lineup. In fact, the top 3, Schwarber, Hoskins, and Harper, have combined for 84. Schwarber alone with 39. He's never had a 40 home run season, so it appears he'll have one now, hopefully in a couple of days from now. Not in the next 2, Joe. Game 1 of a doubleheader in Los Angeles. It's the Diamondbacks taking on the Dodgers. There's Dalton Varsho with his 26th home run. His dad, Gary, played for the Phillies at one point. And then in the 5th, Christian Walker with his 35th of the year. This guy used to play for the Baltimore Orioles. And in Game 1, Diamondbacks with a 2-run lead on the Dodgers, an LA Dodgers team that has won 102 games. And note where the Phillies sit right now in this wild card race, leading the Brewers for that 3rd spot by just 2.5 games. So this 2-game series just as important to the Phillies as it is to the Blue Jays. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is on a bit of a run right now, but Joe has a few concerns about his swing currently, and he'll try and break that down for us when we continue on Blue Jays Central. Well-traveled, and Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, no different. If they're playing, these fans will find them, as they always do. Great to see. First pitch coming up in a few minutes from now here on Sportsnet. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has had a few lengthy hit streaks so far this year. He's currently in the midst of a 12-gamer that began almost 2 weeks ago in Baltimore. Joe, are you seeing a better swing these days?
Jamie, can I say that no, I'm not seeing a whole lot different in Vladdy? And I remember speaking about him recently, standing right here and talking about a couple of things that I thought maybe I saw in his swing. We were talking about his barrel tip here and the way he was striding and different things. But the root of it was his back hip and not getting that real good load, because as a hitter, you'll see hitters move forward. But I think what Vladdy's continuing to do is, we'll use the word drifting forward a little bit so that back hip comes with you. That does not allow him to get behind the baseball like we've seen him when he is at his best and put his A swing on it, because it allows him to create some space to get to the good fastballs. Now, I think with Vladdy, when you're drifting like that, what happens is now that fastball, the good fastball, it's going to rush you. It's going to get on you. So you have to panic and hurry. And that barrel comes and those hands come at a steeper angle there as opposed to there. I'm not seeing a whole lot different there. Maybe in the Texas series, some of the balls that we saw hit very hard. But in general, he is just so darn good that these hit streaks just keep happening. And we'll take a look at some of the things he's done even most recently. This is on the weekend against Dean Kramer and the Orioles. That's a first pitch fastball, 93 miles per hour. You should not be late on that. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. should not be late, but watch that back hit, his right hit. He goes forward there, and there's just not a lot left. He's not in his legs, and there's not a lot left strength-wise to stay behind that baseball. This is Kramer again later in the game. He's just going to elevate a couple fastballs because they're seeing that. They're seeing that he can't quite get to the heater. Now, what do you do when you get 0-2? They got all cute and got all tricky, and they said, we're going to throw him a changeup. We're going to trick him. Well, guess what? I think they did him a big favor because you took some velocity off the pitch. You left it up in the middle of the zone, and Vladdy, because he is Vladdy, smacked it into center field. And this is a home run. This was crazy, too. To me, he's fooled. He's out front on a breaking ball because, again, he's drifting forward, not in that good back hip load. And he's just out front and flips that with one hand. Why? Because his name's Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and he can do amazing things. And that's the whole point about these hitting streaks. I don't think he looks like he's putting his A swing on a lot of these right now during the hitting streak. He gets hits. He gets hits because he's amazing, and we'll hear people talk about him. John Schneider's talked about it before. He continues to get hits because he gets the barrel to the baseball. But if we see Vladdy's form, he gets loaded back in there, he's going to start handling a lot more and start driving the ball more on the line and in the air like we've been accustomed to see him.
So, Joe, if he's riding a 12-game hit streak right now, imagine what's possible if he gets locked in.
Scary.
My Lord. Danny Jansen handling the pitching staff tonight in Philadelphia. First pitch is coming moments from now on Sportsnet. Thank you for watching Blue Jays Central.
Commentators